Hello and welcome to the second episode of Dad Life for Dog's Breakfast. I'm your host. Firstly, I'm not yet a dad. I'm an expectant dad with my partner currently 12 weeks pregnant. So you might be asking yourself, what right do I have to speak about or talk about being a dad? Well, the purpose of this podcast is for me to chronicle the journey, the ups and downs, things that work, things that don't work. Hopefully someone apart from myself will get something out of all of this. Firstly, I say a lot, as I figured out as I was going through the editing process for the last episode, so apologies for that. Another thing, I referenced old mate a couple times in the previous episode as a good example of being a dad. I'm now going to refer to him as P Daddy, just to avoid any confusion when I have to reference other people, because I'll ultimately call them old mate too. And I'll try and make this episode flow a little bit better, as the last one certainly lived up to its name and was definitely a dog's breakfast. The main purpose of this episode is to do a bit of a recap on the first trimester and talk about a few things, ups and downs, as you can imagine. And I guess it's an old wives' tale. I'm not sure if there's any science to back it up, but you're meant to have ended any morning sickness or nausea when you finish the first trimester. And then when your partner's going to the second trimester, it's meant to be the best part of the pregnancy, so to speak. But for myself and my partner, probably more my partner than me, the morning sickness and more the nausea, not the morning sickness, the nausea came back with a vengeance this week. And my partner has been having to take the nausea medication just to get through a day at work. And it's still been pretty bad for her. So it's meant to have gotten better. For us, it's sort of taken a bit of a nosedive off the cliff, but I'm sure over the coming weeks it will just get better and better. Well, my fingers are crossed anyway. First thing we're going to kick off is with the baby development. Now, this is obviously because I'm not in there with the little tacker, so I can't confirm all this. So it's meant to be what's meant to be taking place, but certain things like reflexes, the ability to suck and swallow, which is what they need for feeding in their first few months. But one of the other things are joints, so your baby will be flexing their arms, kicking their legs, or start to anyway, the little buds to the legs in this period. Fingers and toes fully separated, and you've got nails growing so they can scratch the crap out of themselves once they do get out of the womb. And it's about the size of a lime, which I think is about 6-7 centimeters or 3 inches if you're working in that weird system. And we've got the organs developing rapidly and starting to function properly. So between weeks 9 and 12, your baby will essentially double in size. So your partner's going to be going through a fair chunk in a short period of time. So in 3 weeks, the baby doubles in size, which is just going to lead to your partner being more and more fatigued, probably feeling nauseous, especially towards the back end of that first trimester. And as I said earlier, in my notes, it says the early symptoms like nausea and fatigue might begin to ease. For us, that sort of kicked us in the ass. But one thing that is still there, and it's sort of going to be present throughout because hormones are going crazy, is the emotional changes, mood swings, stuff like that. But a lot of that stuff is starting to morph and change into excitement, because one of the things that we learnt this week was the sex of our baby, and for us, we're having a little boy, which is going to be incredible. I thought it was going to be a girl. My partner thought it was going to be a boy. So we hedged our bets, really, didn't we? We are very excited to have a little fella popping out in about 6 months' time. And one thing I can sort of say is that when finding out the sex or the gender, yeah, you might have your heart set on one particular one, either boy or girl, but whatever it is, just celebrate it. And as I said in the last episode, if your emotions get the better of you and they wash over you, then so be it. Enjoy it. It's such an epic thing, especially for the first one. So I didn't shy away from being overly ecstatic and joyful with it, and telling other people that I work with or friends or family has only added to that excitement. One of the other things that is starting to take shape is the different levels of care that we're going to be utilising and trying to be a part of. And one of them here in Australia, in different parts of Australia anyway, but in this part of Australia, we can tap into like a midwife service. You can either go through and get a fully qualified midwife through the hospital that you're attending, or you can go through different universities and get student midwives that are exceptionally well trained and are going through a very well put together program to become midwives. They just need to be a part of, I believe it's 4 or 5 pregnancies and births to be fully qualified as a midwife. And we've got friends that have utilised that system. One of my brothers and his partner utilised that system, and the level of care that they got was incredible, especially when you think it's free for both either the fully qualified or the student. A lot of it was almost around the clock assistance. If you got questions, they would answer them as best they could, or put you onto the right resources so you could answer those questions. They helped a lot, especially with my brother and his partner for their first one, just easing any tensions or concerns that they had as they were going through different parts of the pregnancy. And different things happen, bits and pieces hurt here and there for your partner. So just having someone you could tap into for information was valuable for every person I've spoken to that's delved into that system. So for us, we're looking to jump into some form of midwife care on top of whatever care we get from the hospital itself, with the different doctors and nurses that we'll be dealing with as well. Another thing that we have coming up in this week is the 12-week scan, which is the first time we'll get to hear what will be our son's heartbeat. The first time we had the scan, we could see it, but we couldn't hear it. So that's something that's awesome, something to really look forward to, fellas. And as I said in the last episode, and I'll encourage in this one and every episode going forward, is just to be there. That's one of those things that if your partner has to book it during the day, then take that day off work, or start late, start early, whatever it is. Make sure you're there. That's sort of a big thing that I spoke about last week that I'll continue saying this week, and every other episode after this, is just being present and being there. You don't always have to have the answers or know what to say, but if you're there, that's half the battle won. And I think moving forward, that's the same thing. I'm starting super early on Wednesday so I can be at the appointment in the afternoon. And it's just something we need to do. And I've got down here in my notes your role as an expectant dad. And I touched on it there with just being present and being a part of the different appointments, different scans, all that kind of stuff. And I spoke about it in the last episode, is the feeling of helplessness. It's still there for me. Still there as a massive thing. But being a part of those sort of appointments, those scans, helps with that. Because at least I understand what my partner's going through, or what our baby is doing, and the different development and those sorts of things, and that helps with that. But then what you can also do is, as your partner might still be working, might be off work at this point in time, is probably still feeling some form of tiredness due to what's happening, is doing things like washing, cooking, the shopping. I said it last episode, I'll probably say it again in the next one. I sound a bit like a broken record, but these are the things that we can do and assist with, which makes us feel like we're a part of it more and assisting our partners better. And another thing you can do when you are attending different appointments and different scans is ask questions. If you're not sure what questions to ask, Google some. There would be a plethora of resources out there. I know for our app that we use, What to Expect, there's different forums on that particular app itself that you can tap into, that people chat and they have questions that they ask as well. But just Google some questions, even generic questions that might sound silly to ask, but just doing them, being present and trying to better understand what's going on will help a lot. It's something that I'm going to do for our next scan, is ask bulk questions, because the first one I was just trying my best not to be an emotional wreck in the corner. Now this one I feel much more prepared for emotionally, so we'll be rocking up armed with questions. God knows what those bloody questions are, but I'll rock up with questions. Don't you worry about that. I have a tram ride from work to where the hospital where we're getting the scan. So I'll be taking notes as we go. Moving on, and this sort of flows on a bit from that last one about asking questions at the doctors or at the different scans, is just staying informed, reading about the changes happening in the different weeks and stages of the pregnancy, not just the changes for your baby, but also for your partner and what they might have coming up as well, and understanding the different things that they've got to look forward to, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some of the changes they might not be looking forward to, but just understand like the different things that happen as the baby gets a little bit bigger, and it pushes the guts and the intestines up into sort of the chest cavity a bit more, and actually impedes on their lungs, which can lead to a lot of pregnant women getting out of breath a lot quicker. So it's just certain things like that you want to know, you want to be sort of forearmed with and forewarned with that knowledge, so that when your partner's feeling a little bit out of breath, it's just a normal thing. And another thing that we can have some sort of, I guess, influence on or just be a part of is the planning. Now, it's not just the birth plan, but you've got the financial, your nursery, how you're going to set that up at home, where the baby's going to sleep in those first few days, weeks, months, things like that. Planning for work, not just your work, but your partner's work. You might have other kids you need to plan for, different diets and vitamins and minerals that you and your partner might be taking, especially your partner, but you help out where you can. But also the diet of your baby when it pops out, and then different birthing styles. There's sort of like the two main ones, natural or cesarean, but then there's different types within natural as well. For us, with the financial planning, we sat down, had some really good chats about how we want to do things, and started working off a budget a fair while ago. That has helped us so that if interest rates go up, for argument's sake, we've put ourselves in a position where we can still provide the same amount of money, and we're not getting sort of bitten in the ass, which is a massive thing. And also with work, my partner and I, we've sat down and spoken about the amount of time that she wants to have off. And initially it was 12 months with mat leave and different types of leave and whatnot. And then she began to sort of and ah about maybe doing it for 9 or 10 months. But we both agreed that extra few months taken off, even at half pay, you will never regret having that time off. You'll never regret having those extra few months with your child, just continuing to bond and be there for the different moments. Work can wait, but your kids can't. So I think that's something we've spoken about and planning towards, is to try and take as much time off work as we possibly can to spend it as a family and build some of those core memories. Probably not in the first year. I don't think kids will remember that, but we certainly will. And that's a big part of it. Is we'll build those connections, and less time at work's better anyway, because who wants to be at work? And another thing, and I spoke about this one in the previous episode, is just your emotions, taking care of yourself, the excitement, and it ebbs and flows. Bulk excitement this week for myself and my partner as we found out that we're having a boy, but there's still, fear and uncertainty about being a dad and being a good dad at that. I said I thought we're going to have a girl, and I think that's a subconscious thing, just because of the relationship I had with my dad, that I probably didn't overtly want a boy for different reasons. But now that we're having a boy, and when I found out we're having a boy, just bulk excitement, and I feel really good about it. But there's still a massive level of uncertainty about my ability to parent, and a fear that I'm somehow going to maybe be or have a detrimental impact on my son's life. I'm not sure whether that's a normal thing, but yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at with that. And it's good to keep in check with those emotions and talk to your partner about those emotions, because that's what I've done with my partner. We've had some really good chats, and that's helped me feel so much better about things. being able to just openly talk about how I feel, being scared of this and that, but also being excited by, having a kid, having a son, and the awesomeness that's going to come from that. I'll begin to wrap this up, and it's ultimately going to have turned into another Dog's Breakfast of an episode, no apologies there. I promise one of these episodes I will get flowing well and structured better. Until then, we're all just going to have to wait until that glorious moment comes. But one of the main things is acknowledging, progress, talking about your feelings, and continue to bond with your partner and start bonding with your child and celebrate those small milestones. That's such a big thing. You want to celebrate those small things, even small changes or a day without your partner feeling nauseous. That's an awesome thing. And as partners, as fellas, we need to support them and celebrate those sort of small things with them. And hopefully you get to celebrate the end of the first trimester with your partner not having any nausea or morning sickness or anything like that, and they can just enjoy the second trimester for what it's worth, which is just the baby getting bigger and you having a designated driver for the next few months as well. And as I've spoken about in this episode and also in the previous one and probably again in the next one, is just be there at the different appointments, the different scans, ask questions, and stay informed as well. Whether you're using an app or you're Googling things, make sure that you're staying on top of what's taking place, because the more we're informed as partners, the better we can support our partner, which is a big thing, because that's what we're there for. They're doing the hard work. We just need to do the shopping, do the cleaning, and do the cooking, and make sure that they're eating all the right stuff, and then we can't lose. Well, we can, but you just never know. And as I wrap up this episode, one last tip, and this is vital, is do not buy food for your partner and then when you're hungry, eat that food. No, I don't want to name names, but someone involved in this podcast may have done that exact thing, and it is fraught with danger. So if there's only one thing you take away from this episode, it is do not eat your partner's food if they think it is just their food. Even if you went and bought it, it doesn't matter. It's their food. So take that for what it's worth, but yeah, tread carefully. That's my advice around food. Make sure they're well fed. Make sure you're well fed. Anyway, this has been Dad Life for Dog's Breakfast. I'm your host. Thanks very much for sticking around if you've made it this far, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Cheers.